Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jimmy Good, and joining me, as always, is my go-to podcast compadre, or most often, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, how you doing?
Goosebumps, Jimmy. Goosebumps.
Goosebumps, why? What happened?
It's been a long while, hasn't it?
Yeah, oh my gosh. It's been good.
Goosebumps, because that intro, it's been a while since I've heard it.
Thank you.
It slaps.
Thank you. Well, what can I say? After 300 episodes, I hope to have it down. I have screwed it up plenty, though, but most people haven't seen that, thank goodness. Thanks to the magic of editing. But speaking of magic, you've got a new, like a penthouse apartment over the ocean?
I'm in Australia, mate. It's morning over here.
Nice.
So you can see, I got an overview of the city. I'm in Melbourne. Yeah, Formula One track behind me here. This is where they just had the race. My arm is over through these windows right here.
I know they can't see it's into me now. I mean, they believe it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All a joke. I may clip in and out from time to time. You know, it's just not a real green screen. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway,
it's still great though.
You know, it looks nice. It would be nice to live in a pad like this. I wouldn't mind.
I can also just hear the groan of all the Australians who are watching right now who heard you call it Melbourne when I think they pronounce it like Melbourne. Like they shorten it up. I don't know.
I don't know.
Who knows?
None of the listeners know this, but I've recently become a Formula One aficionado.
Uh-huh.
Followed it for about a season and a half. So last year and part of the year before, this year I am tuned in. And so watching the race in Melbourne back in April, all the Europeans, they call it Melbourne, because it's only the Aussies that are
they're protected.
I'm sure they'll be fine. They'll be
fine.
I gave them a nod for crying out loud.
You did give them a nod. And you know what? You've been working on your Australian. Can you give us just like one brief sentence that sounds very Aussie?
Good friend of mine told me this one. Rise up lights.
Perfect. Perfect. Oh my gosh.
Rise up lights. Rise up lights. Rise up lights.
300 episodes in, and I'll be amazed if we get 3 people to listen. It'll be.
Try that one on your friends, people.
Yeah, what Joe was saying. Yeah, if you say the 3 words in English, rise up lights, and you say it quickly, rise up lights, it kind of sounds like you're saying razor blades in Australian. So there you go. If you got nothing else out of this, that's what you got. I don't know if we've made that joke before in the past on the show. Very well could have. But who knows at this point? I don't know. But we're celebrating 300 episodes, baby. Yeah. And Joe has been...
Hundo.
Yeah. And Joe, you've been on most all of them. There have been a few that you haven't, but for the most part, Joe is clearly the guy. He is literally the go-to podcast compadre. So first and foremost, thank you, Joe, for being on so many. It's a ton.
Absolutely. I remember when we started doing this back in the day.
Yeah.
I'll age us a little bit, but when did we start this? 2015?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. That's 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Oy.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Anyway,
long time.
That was just my heart going, God, you're old.
Yeah.
Not that old, just a number.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, 300 episodes. I was there for quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Majority, one would say.
Sure. Oh, totally.
I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm what they would call an OG.
Yes. You are an OG for sure. For surezies.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe I've ever missed a Critty's episode.
Oh, no, I wouldn't do it without you. No, that's not. It's not possible. That's why we waited to do this one, because I was like, I can only do it with you. The universe won't let me.
Yeah, so speaking of, what is this episode all about, Jimmy?
Yes, we all know we are smack dab in the middle of award season in May here. That's how the awards, maybe many of them a little early. I don't know. I think they're jumping the gun a smidge. But the Critties is the premier video game, movie, television show, award show that everybody's tuning in for. I know everybody is watching at home a little bit after the fact. It's like you might have an Oscar, you might have an Emmy, but you're really waiting for a Critty. Don't worry, they're coming in the mail. But... yes, it is time for the Critties. This is our show. We do it like once a year-ish. I mean, we haven't done one every year, but I don't know. We've been doing it for a while. So it used to just be like it used to be like our like awards show, and then we finally called it was like the Critical Reviews Awards, and we just called it the Critties. And I'm repping today, even though I changed in the last year, I changed the channel over to my name. I'm still gonna call it this because it's way better than what are we gonna call it, like the Jimmies? Like I don't know, that'd be weird. It's like you sprinkle on the ice cream.
The goods,
the goodies.
Oh, the good.
Make goodies. With the goodies.
Man, there's a slogan in there somewhere, like come to this channel for the goods.
The goods.
Something like that.
Yeah.
We'll have to workshop that a little bit.
We'll workshop it. We'll get it ready for next year if we do another one of these.
By the way, my attire, hat, t-shirts.
Fancy.
Dry cleaning got lost. I'm this far from suing the guy. It was a brand new Armani suit, navy, and I don't know who has it now, but I hope it fits and they enjoy it. But
and thanks for bringing that up.
In the attire.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We have audio listeners too, but thanks for bringing that up, Joe. And because people a lot of times often ask, like they might want to know where the super chat or the Patreon money is going. It all went into that suit.
Yeah,
and you lost it. So
I'll get them back somehow.
Okay, well, that's great. I hope so. It's hard to find good help these days. It's tough. It's really tough out there. Either way, so play along at home. I do honestly want to hear what people's are down like in the comments or message us or whatever else, because it's more of a dialogue, and I like to hear what people's favorite things were. A lot of people have already talked about this, but this is the definitive thing people need to check out. Well, this is it.
We're both, for those viewing on YouTube, we're doing the hand motion stuff.
Lots of it.
Talking with our hands a lot. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Jimmy, before we get started, why don't you kind of give a rundown of the format for people who aren't used to the Critties?
Oh, I'd love to.
I don't know who that would be. I mean, who misses out on this every year?
Exactly. But yeah, we gave an award out to Gal Gadot once. I'm still waiting. I think she's waiting for us to like get it to her.
Oh, but I didn't tell you.
What happened?
She stopped by. What was it? October last year.
Again?
We went out for late lunch, and she said no. Receiving the award, the nomination, all of it, that was plenty. Keep the trophy. I'm sure I'll get it again, and I'll come visit. And we had a moment. She's very nice in person.
Beautiful, wonderful. That's confidence.
Yeah. So next time she's out there and we can get her on the nominee list.
Yeah. She'll be back.
I'll see her again.
She'll be back. Yeah. But yes, as Joe is serving it up to me, and I will spike it now. This is how the show works. Joe and I take turns talking about these various categories, go back and forth. And basically what we do, unlike most award shows that do hand out the kind of winner award, we do talk a little bit about them. We don't just move right along, because there's a little bit of a discussion that needs to be had about these things. These are important things to talk about.
Why were they nominated? Why did they make it in that category?
Right?
What's the what? There may have been others that could have made it, but these are kind of like the top notch, and they deserve a little spotlight for a minute.
Also, we have to be honest with you guys. We only talk about movies and games that we've actually consumed in a way. So there might be things on this list where you're like, why didn't they talk about this? And it's like, because we, I don't want to put something on here just because I feel like I should just give it an award for something I haven't seen or witnessed myself. So that's just the way we look at it.
Yeah, it's a lot of, common ground, people in our generation or age bracket, say like late 20s to, I don't know, it's pretty wide demographic, I guess, but we're kind of focused on the mainstream, the what's and the where am I going with this? Like
I'm not sure.
The Big Bang type stuff of the year, the stuff that was really front and center. That's gonna most recognizable, I guess.
Exactly. Yes, and we are broadcasting all over the world thanks to YouTube, I hope. Who knows what countries could be watching this right now and are waiting with bated breath to see which exactly things we're going to talk about as far as our favorites. And Joe and I do agree on these, but there's a few at the end where we kind of split it up a little bit just to give
Oh, I don't know
spread the
about
love.
that. Yeah, but maybe we agree wholeheartedly on everything. I mean, let's still not spoil it for him, Jimmy. I mean, come on.
That'd be great if like you did that. Like I say the winner and then you're like, actually my winner. So I'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa.
All right. Without further ado, before we get started, we'd like to give a shout out to this week's sponsor, brought to you by.
Brought to you by who, Joe? It's new to me. Whatever he says next, it's not
There's
true.
a whole, there's a whole inside joke here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can edit this out in post, right?
Oh no, I'm
Anyway,
keeping it all in.
brought
It's
to you
good.
by
Yeah.
ice. You can't see it because ice cold crisp Canada Dry. Most refreshing drink on the shelves, baby. Go get yourself one. Cheers.
Not even drinking one, which is even funnier. So yeah, that's right. Canada Dry, not a sponsor. We'd love it if they were. I think I even sent something to their marketing team a long time ago. I hope somebody saw it somewhere and they're like, no. It's like, dang it. Because I do like Canada Dry. It is actually pretty good. But I like Sprite and 7-Up. I am a mercenary. I don't care. Whoever's willing to pay me the most in the ginger ale, like kind of lemon lime space, I will go wherever. Anyway, so let's begin.
Just say I do not regret letting the audience in on the inside joke because it might have been even embarrassing. I don't know.
It's a great joke.
Funny.
Hey, no, that's a deep cut. That's for a lot of people who have been watching this for a while. They know exactly what we're talking about. Anyway, let's begin now with the best co-op video game of 2022.
Right into it, head first.
Yes, and the nominees are... No, that's fine. That's okay. This is a co-op thing. Our nominees are as follows. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge. Elden Ring. Formula 1 or F1 2022. Gotham Knights. And Monster Hunter Rise. On, like, other things besides Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. Everybody's like, well, how did Formula 1 2022 make it on there? Well, yeah, if you listen to the intro, apparently I'm obsessed with it now. So
I hope they know that by now. And the Critty.
Well, do we want to? Well, do we want to talk a little bit about each one before we decide? Here's the one.
Usually in the past we've announced the winner and then we talk about them. But I mean,
oh gee, I'm out of practice.
He's rusty.
Continue, Jimmy. Sorry.
He's all that Canada Dry is really getting to him.
Bubbles right to my head, but boy, is it refreshing.
That's great. Every award, it's a Canada Dry reference. Anyway, and the Critty goes to Elden Ring. Oh my gosh, does this game even have co-op? I didn't even know it did. No, it totally has co-op. And it was like the only way.
It totally
it totally does. That'd be a cool way for them to explain it. Yeah, we'll talk about the other ones here, but Elden Ring, I think, not only such a great game, but like more fun, a little bit frustrating in the co-op practice because they want it to be kind of hard. They don't want it to be just, do everything with your buddies. Like there's some hoops you have to jump through, but when it's working, man, it's hilarious. It's very fun. Really good times.
Yeah, and I won't go as far as to say it was like glitchy or anything. It was more so like there were particular areas where you could or couldn't. You had to.
Oh yeah.
So which made sense. They didn't want you to kind of, what's the word, loophole and like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised at all given the nominees. I mean, there were some good ones on here, but I mean, Elden Ring. I mean, that game. Here we are in May of 23. I still think about it all the time.
Sure.
Stupid me. I made it really far late game, but I still have like 3 or 4 bosses to beat. And I just don't have enough time to go back to it, but I think about it almost every week. Like, yeah. And anytime I see something like a game clip on Instagram or something like that, I'm like, man, that's a good looking game. Like overstuffed, beautiful.
Yeah.
The design amazing, combat, the aesthetic of everything, and then to have that beautiful world and the amount of content and things to do within it. and the changing scenery and environments, and to be able to summon your friends from their world
Mm-hmm.
into yours, awesome.
Yeah.
And sorry if I'm kind of stealing this from you a little bit,
That's fine.
but I often think back to when the game had just come out, maybe it was about, 3, 4 weeks in. Um, the two of us had hopped on, and our buddy Drew, who we play games with a lot, he was on and playing through. He was a little late to the scene compared to us, but we got him up to speed. And I remember one night in particular, the three of us bros just kind of trotting through the swamps of, I forget what that region was
Oh
called or
yeah.
whatever, but we
Mm-hmm.
were making our way through these swamps or glades through some like ruins on our way to like this old tattered castle or whatever. And like some of these little villages along the way in the swamps or glades were like, tattered and decrepit, and like roofs almost collapsed down to the ground. And I remember us just trotting along, chatting and killing things on our way. And then all of a sudden, I'm on top of a roof peak that had collapsed, and I'm looking, and I saw something in red just kind of whoosh in the distance. and and so, for those that don't know or haven't played Elden Ring, when you're in co-op, if you have other, and maybe refresh me, Jimmy, how it works, but when you have other players with you, you open yourself up to being invaded
Yeah.
by people who want to invade world people's game
Mm-hmm.
and try and kill them for points, right? Is it points or is it just for blood sport?
There's other items and stuff you can get from it too if you kill people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was never much of one to invade others. I think I tried it a couple times. But it was so cool because we're just, it's like such a cool environment that you're walking through, and you're hanging with your buds and you're just killing stuff and doing fun things. All of a sudden that whoosh appeared, and they appear in red because they're an invader, so they stand out as like an enemy. And I'm like, guys, on me. We just got invaded, and it's a whole thing. And we like develop these tactics, like we like start doing like velociraptor tactics. All
Mm-hmm.
right, left, right, you guys flank. I'm staying front and center, and we like draw them in, and they're trying to kill the host. And I think that night it might have been me. I think. Anyway, it's been a while. Anyway, and so they want to kill me first because then the other two cooperatives, they get banished back to their server realm or world. And so anyway, just so much fun. We ended up slaying that guy, and I think we got invaded right after that, like two or three more times. And I remember just fighting in these glades amongst all these, decrepit buildings, and it was one of those where like you're playing a video game and all of a sudden you establish like a memory for ever. Like
Yeah.
it was just fun. And I just it'll always stand out to me as like that was like a bonding thing through a video game,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I play them for the most part.
Yeah.
And I love that aspect, and that really speaks to the cooperative functionality in that game. Like it adds another element to it where you kind of got to be on your toes. You can't
Yeah.
just be nonchalant about it, and it makes you take it more seriously. And yeah, it's just a really good time. And then being able to take down bosses with your friends. I'm
Totally.
not overly obsessed with, oh, I gotta solo it so I can prove I'm so good. No, it's fun to experience it together, especially a game like that is put together so well
Yeah.
and so artistic. Like
Yeah.
I remember, I'm a bit of a artsy guy. Like I like drawing, I'm good at it and that sort of thing. And I can really appreciate a good, well-designed game. The environments alone, I found myself when I was like playing alone, I would literally stop on like a cliffside, and like the elder tree,
Erd tree.
right? Is that was the Erd tree.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. In the background, is basically the sky landscape down here. I
Yeah.
remember stopping on a cliff, and I thought, wow, my guy looks cool. And then I kind of did the pan around him because third person, which is a lot of fun, and you can see all your gear and the aesthetic. I pan around and wow, he looks awesome. Then I look into the background. I'm like, this is freaking picturesque, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
took a screenshot of it, and it was my Xbox background for like a year, you know.
Ah, cool.
And I recently stumbled upon a couple of those screenshots, and I was like, wow, that game was like they had some smart artistic folks working on that.
Yeah,
And yeah, but being able to experience that with your friends,
totally.
top notch.
Completely agree.
Did I gush enough about it?
Not enough. Not yet. Please continue.
Okay, what do you got? What do you
I was
got?
gonna say I
I
remember doing
kind
the fire giant and fighting him with you, which was like a whole thing because we kept fighting him again and again, and finally bringing him
yeah,
down felt good. But there's a few of these bosses, especially optional things, where we had to like go and kind of track them down together, and it was way more fun with
yeah.
friends because I don't know, there's something about it where it's like you feel like it's two birds, one stone. Like you're hanging out with your friends and you're playing a game, and you have kind of a goal. I just wish that in future you didn't have to do so much of this weird like I summon you, you can only be here if there's a boss nearby, like this whole kind of like
Oh yeah, that was the whole thing because they
yeah.
wanted you to summon people for help with bosses. But if
Yeah.
you kind of cheated that, you could kind of wander around together, which was great.
Yeah. So yeah, but still I really enjoyed the co-op and that I thought that made the game even more fun and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Even as someone who beat it alone, it would have been more fun to beat it with friends, but you just do what you can. And I don't know how anyone beats that last boss without teleporting around, but I'm sure people are better at it than I am. I had a little like dash step that I loved, and I'd just be like, I was like, wee-hoo. Yeah.
Because I haven't played it in a while, I forget what the sword was called, but it was the one that you got from the Serpent King.
Oh yeah, yeah, that
And
huge one with like the
and you
shockwave.
just slam it down and shoot the shockwave of
Super
fire or
strong.
whatever.
Super strong.
And I got to the point where I was like, I started to experiment with loadouts because I started to get into like videos and tutorials on like this is a meta weapon setup. Use
Yeah.
dual twin blades and use bleed and
Yeah, all that stuff.
what's the one move that you could do where you stab yourself?
Ah, the seppuku. I
Yeah,
used to do that
yeah.
all the
So it was
time.
like
Yeah.
do that to power it up and boost your buff your bleed, and then the twin blades you could just spin through people and like that was fun. But I'll tell you, when it came to like I got to do work, I busted out that serpent's blade and I just stand in the background and freaking slam fire across at them, and
Yeah.
that thing was a little OP when you got it maxed out.
It was
Like,
great. It was very helpful. I
but
remember a few times where I was like, "Oh man, I don't get to kill things because I'd see the shockwave go, and I was like,
Oh
it
my
was
God,
very,
yeah, it's good for turning groups of things into cannon fodder.
oh totally, yeah, which is nice because I was just dashing around with my big katanas. I'm just like,
Yeah, but that was another aspect of that game. Well, I'll stop here. This was about the co-op. I
cool.
think I've said my piece on co-op.
Fair enough. The other games that I did mention here, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge, great game, really nice throwback. The thing is the staying power with it, and that's where, like, for me, it's probably fun for a couple of nights with your friends. Get the pizza and stuff. Super lovely in that regard, but once you kind of beat that, it's kind of like, all right, cool. Like, but it's not.
Game Pass type game.
Yeah, well, and it's not built to be some sort of like 40-hour RPG or whatever, 100-hour like Elden Ring or something. But
Yeah.
it just reminded me a little bit of my childhood and the arcade stuff, and I was like, I gotta give it some love there. Gotham Knights, we'll probably talk about later on too, but that's the best thing I think in that game is the co-op. Just getting to do
Yeah.
some Arkhamy
We
things
played
with the buddy.
we played through that together. That was fun. I
We
think it
did,
was pretty, for the most part, it was fairly one-dimensional.
yeah.
Like the big thing was like if you liked the cosmetics, and the storyline was like
It's all right.
fine.
Yeah,
It was fine, you
yeah,
know. The only thing that kind of made it fall a little flat, playing with friends was fine and all that. The only thing is sometimes it was kind of glitchy. Like all of a sudden, like everything around you would freeze, and like
yeah,
you would be moving, but you wouldn't be moving,
yeah,
or vice versa.
yeah.
And yeah, so
Hmm.
sometimes that got a little clunky, but cool environment. The whole city deal, teleporting, and then flying your way through the city. You had a bike and all that. I mean, it was fun in that regard.
Yeah,
But it needed something a little more to project it to that next level. And also it just didn't have as much longevity. You
sure.
know, like even co-op. You could kind of play your way through everything, and then it was kind of like, okay, what do we do now? Just go beat up some more guys.
And they had like a raid or something that we never fully did, but that's because like the leveling, I don't know, it just got to a point where I was grindy so much. It was just you had to figure out how to beat certain bosses with a certain element type, and then eventually you could do like a 30 level raid thing. And I was like, eh. Like I said, we're gonna talk. Gotham Knights is coming up again later, probably. So don't worry about it. And last thing, Monster Hunter Rise again came out on Switch a while ago. It did come to consoles, I believe, in 2022. Still, Monster Hunter games are, I think, best played co-op, and I had a fun time playing with my buddies Caden and Fragadin. Shout out to you boys. We had some fun times, and whomever else we played with. But
For the record, I did try it.
yeah.
The only problem is the true Monster Hunter world kind of ruined me. So.
Wait, that sequel's coming, man. I think it's this year. I know that sounds crazy, but Capcom said a little while ago that this year will be their best performing year they think ever. And like Resident Evil 4 Remake came out, and it's like, yeah, that's a great game, and I think it sold well. But and we played Exoprimal. That's another big Capcom game that's coming out. But it was like those games that shouldn't be like why it makes it the best year for them ever. So like part of me is like, in this summer, are they gonna announce it? And then like this fall, they're gonna be like Monster Hunter World 2 or whatever it is. I'm gonna be like, ah! I'll be like, yeah.
Do we have any big game events coming up or like announcement events?
Yeah, they've got the Summer Games Fest because E3 got canceled.
Okay.
It's like dead.
Okay.
They say, but we'll see.
So when that comes up, this Games Fest thing, first thing we're gonna see when they walk into the arena area, there's going to be like a life-size Rathalos
I hope so.
figure there, right?
Yeah, Keely better be riding a Rathalos. Yeah,
that game will forever hold a spot in my heart as like nostalgia to the tops. Like that game,
beautiful
some good
game.
times in there, and I get so sucked into like I gotta make this build, I gotta get this part.
I know, yeah, hunted about 50 Odegarans for you to be like, I like these daggers. Be like, actually, I don't need them anymore. Be like, still a fun game. The thing is, that one
I really like variety.
Yeah, yeah, I know that you'd be like, actually,
it's a problem.
I'm gonna use a bow and arrow now, and it'd be like, oh, good, we got those daggers or whatever. We got that new armor piece that's no good for bow and arrow. But that won our 2018 Game of the Year, which was a stacked year because that was Red Dead Redemption 2, that was God of War, that was Spider-Man, and most people did not give it to Monster Hunter World, and they were wrong. And that's okay. But you know, it's fine. They can be wrong. It's fine. It's their awards. Whatever. Anyway, I think it's time to move on to our next category, which is all you, buddy.
Yeah, and totally appropriate that I would be presenting this one. Self-proclaimed bro gamer that I am. Shameful. This category is called Best Shooter.
Ooh. The
nominees are drum roll. Jimmy, that's your cue. Overwatch 2. Our next nominee is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Thank you, Jimmy. Very good drum roll. And that's it. Best shooter for 2022. A little lackluster in that category. We sat here and pondered what was the best shooter in 2022. And I literally, from what I played, Overwatch 2 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, that was really it. I cannot think of another shooter that I played that would like be in that same league, you know? Both first person. And I struggle to think of another one that I would have played. Even one that I didn't play. Were there any other big shooters that came out? I know there's that one on PC. We were trying to think of the name of it. Real competitive shooter. I know there's like a league and everything for it, but I can't remember the name. Anyway, I think these are two standouts. Overwatch 2. Sorry, I'm going off.
I'm doing the drum roll until you say it, man. That's the problem.
The format is totally screwed up. Right. The Critty for Best Shooter of 2022 goes to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Boom. Straight and to the point. Okay, a lot of people are probably like, wow, wow. Um, Now, let me be clear about this. If you are a Call of Duty player, uh, you might be scoffing, but the reason why I think it deserves this award is because the multiplayer. I'm not really entering into the equation the Warzone feature.
Oh, okay.
Warzone is a little bit of its own thing. You know, it's a battle royale, all that. There's a lot of issues with it, and people don't like it as much. Warzone 1, still, I think, a tier above. Warzone 2 needs a lot of tweaking, which they've been working on. But Call of Duty multiplayer, let's face it, yearly release Call of Duty,
Mm.
they've got it down, right? They change little, tweak little things here and there, a lot with like physics or like certain mechanics or like, uh, like for a couple years there, or at least a year, no, 2 to 3 years, we had the slide cancel deal, which I think a lot of people say was a accidental feature. Like gamers figured out how to do it and kind of broke it, so they just kept it in instead of patching it. But like you could literally like you know uh, crouch into a slide and re-up your attack sprint, so you could just really move, and like you could dance around other players if they weren't fast enough by slide canceling. So like mechanics like that'll change from year to year. This year you don't have that option. It's just you're either running, walking, or that's it. So it's a lot more realistic in that way. But as a shooter, they've got really good ranked play this year. With tiers. Um, and they actually have it where you can max out at the top 250, which is pretty cool. So if you're like somebody who wants to grind competitive, you have a crew that you run with, that's something fun to do. Um, some of the maps are really good. There's a few that are like this one again, and you basically back out because it's so bad. So there are some duds in there, but I mean, that kind of happens with a lot of multiplayer
Hmm.
shooters.
Hmm.
So, um, but yeah, I mean, just the feel of it, the look, the legitimacy, the realism, all real world guns that they're putting in there. I believe so. Yeah, all real. They look great. Obviously, things just keep improving year to year, and the look and aesthetic and the quality goes up. I don't even play it on PC, but when you play it on PC, it's just even better.
Mm.
You can take advantage of a lot of the PC's abilities and features for frames and graphics and all that. Um, and yeah, I just like the competitive nature of it, the pace of it. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, it's kind of addicting. You really get sucked into the I want to beat these guys. Um, but so with that being said, I don't know if you have any comments on it, Jimmy. You're not much of a Call of Duty guy.
I'm sorry. No.
Little known fact for the community here, Jimmy and I think it was what, right after college, you and I really got sucked into playing Black Ops 1 back in the day.
Actually, in
And we
college too. But yeah, a
had a
little
little
after
bit in
college. Yeah.
college.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we would run around in multiplayer and kind of crack jokes and have fun, and that was a good time.
A lot of people
But
don't know this
since
about me.
then,
My KDR is usually pretty good, and yeah,
this is true.
Drew would often make fun of me nowadays, even with certain games. He'd be like, "Does it ever suck, or does it ever get tired of being at the top?" And I'm like, "No, man." Um,
Well, so Jimmy's not lying. Always had a good KD. 15 kills, 3 deaths. 20 kills, 5 deaths. I'm up here like, yeah, 30 kills, guys. And Jimmy's like, yeah, Joe, but 20, 22 deaths.
yeah, or
Uh,
whatever. Yes, yes, because the game doesn't care. Game doesn't care how many times you died, as long as you win. And you're like, yeah, if you had 45 kills and 40 deaths, it'd be like, yeah, whatever. Eh,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the
Yeah, no.
ratio,
We're just
terrible.
that just shows how different we are as
Yeah.
strategists.
Patience,
Yeah.
where'd it go?
That's why I look back at times where I'm like, oh, those moments in Ghost Recon when things went south quickly. Why did I expect any different? Why was there ever a
All
moment where I
right.
was like,
Jimmy, I've marked these 3 guys. You take number 3. Drew, you got number 2. I'm going to count down. On the K of Mark,
so
we all
funny,
take the shot.
so funny. I love it.
3, 2, 1. Joe, what did you do?
3, 2, 1, takes the shot. Mark.
Nine, yeah, 9 times out of 10, it was because my guy was about to walk behind the wall, and
No, it's
I was
true.
like, "Oh God,
No,
I didn't count quickly enough."
I love those moments.
Um,
They're fun in the moment. They're stressful, but then I'm like, oh, it's a video game. But yeah, no, we used to have a lot of fun
yeah,
playing Call of Duty. It was one of those things that felt a little hamster wheely to me. But most games can be that way anyway. It just depends on what you like, you know. But yeah,
understandable.
I don't begrudge that. But
So, speaking of patience, God, perfect segue in Overwatch 2. Jimmy, what would you have to say about Overwatch 2? Some
uh,
good, some bad. What
yeah,
are your feelings
I
on it?
was actually gonna talk about it in the next thing, but we could talk about it now too. That works. So Overwatch 2 is an interesting case because to me, it makes a transition over to a games as a service and talks about being another game, like a new game, but really it added, like, at the time, originally, when it first came out, it was like one new map, or like maybe a few new maps, I should say, and like a new mode and a couple of heroes. And that was kind of it. And to be honest, I haven't really played in a while. Going back to it was very nostalgic. It felt like 2016 all over again. And that was a great year. And I remember that game, I think it was 2016. We loved that game. We played tons of
Loved
that
it.
game. And I still like have, you can look at my, like the hours I sunk into Overwatch, and it's still that game. So I think calling it Overwatch 2 is not maybe the best way to go about it, because now it's free to play. Because like when I see a sequel, I kind of think of a new SKU, or basically a new box. And part of me kind of wishes that it would have been that, and I would have been like, yeah, you have to, buy to get into this. It's like $65 or whatever it'd be, and it would have been a bunch of new stuff. But even at the time of this recording, I'm not sure if that single player campaign stuff has even come out yet, and that's like a separate buy. So I don't know. I still really like Overwatch. I don't feel like I need to play it a ton, and we kind of had our time with it when it kind of resurged there again for a bit, and it was a good time. But I don't know. I don't know what it would take to bring me back to it. It's still a fun game, super fun game, not a bad game at all. But yeah, I just kind of have my time with it.
Maybe have we overplayed it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I I really like that game. Obviously, it's got some nostalgia for me because we played a lot of it during Overwatch 1. I love the variety of the characters and the abilities, and then the
Yeah,
whole, cooperative nature of it, like having a plan and
yeah,
tactic and
hmm
kind of a meta setup. Um, Hence my comment about patience. Jimmy refrained from saying so, but obviously, a lot of our issues of when we don't win is because I get impatient and think, "Oh, my alt will take care of this." And Jimmy's like, "Okay, Joe, I finally got my alt. You ready to combo?" I'm like, "I just had to use it." And Jimmy would say, "I used it on a solo tracer," and you would always ask, "Did you get him?" I said, "Almost. He's weak."
I didn't say that because I
That
didn't
may
want to
have
throw her under the
happened once or
bus.
twice.
Yeah. And it's not
But
just you, it's a whole team thing. And that's why it's like when we had Drew in, and then sometimes I think Jalen played a few rounds with us. It was really cool
yeah,
to have, like, the more people you have on your team, the much better it is, because it's such a dependent game on your healers and your tanks, especially now that it came from 6 players down to 5, and the tanks are so much more of a big deal. But there were a few times when
yeah.
we played Overwatch 2 with the competitive ranked stuff that it was really fun. It was good.
You're right, though, especially if you have a good cohesive team, like at least three,
Yeah.
and then you have a couple fillers, you can kind of manage that, because you always can kind of manage, okay, next couple rounds you're going to take healer, I'll
Yeah.
take tank, you can take DPS or something. Um, so there's always those things to weigh into it, which I do enjoy. I think that's kind of
Mhm.
fun, and it keeps you changing up characters. It's not like you just slot in. I'm gonna go Reaper every single time because I love Death Blossom.
Yeah.
Yeah, who doesn't? But
Yeah, who doesn't?
it's just it's deserved to be in this echelon of games. I love the competitive nature of it. I like the game modes. I think the game modes are a lot of fun between like payload pushes, the push pull thing where you have to transfer the robot to the point kind of a
Yeah, that
thing.
was cool.
Um, yeah, they're all. all the game modes are pretty good. The maps are fun. The maps are well built, sight
Yeah.
lines and things, and they're
Yeah.
pretty. A lot of detail, little features, like they didn't slouch on that. Obviously it went free to play. They get money through a battle pass system, which is, let's face it, that's how a lot of these types of games are going now, where
Yep.
they're competitive and they've developed a community. There's competitive Overwatch leagues, so there's a whole community around this. So it makes sense that they went that way. The cosmetics for Overwatch 2 and some of the rewards you could get, if you're buying a battle pass for $20, amp it up a little bit more.
Mm.
I'll admit, like, yeah, you get into the later echelon or the tiers, and okay, you get that one crazy premier skin for that character, but
Mm.
along the way, you got like some charms and some stickers, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I
Yeah.
paid $20 for the skin at the end that I didn't even complete because it's such a long season and I can't
Yeah.
play every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's sad when they
Anyway,
make you miss loot boxes, where at least there you're like, maybe something will come out of here that's cool, versus like looking at the long line of it and being like, I know I'll get there eventually, but like the amount of time I have to put in to get there is so
yeah.
much. It's like,
And I misspoke. It's actually not a long enough season unless you're playing every day. You're not going
oh
to
yeah,
get to that last
exactly,
echelon,
yeah,
which,
yeah, yeah,
so in retrospect, I'm like, why did I hope Haley doesn't listen to this. I never
I
bought
don't think so.
anything.
Yep.
Anything. Anyway.
Secret safe with
Anyway,
us.
I think that's enough about it. It's a good shooter and it's not like you're shooting the same style of weapon every time. It's
Yeah,
always a variety. You got the sound wave gun from Lucio. You got Roadhog's like junk gun
yeah.
and Junkrat's little I'm screwing up names of everything,
Grenade
but the little
launcher.
cannonball deal,
Yeah.
grenade launcher.
Hmm.
I mean, this is a cool game.
Yeah.
You know, I think for a lot of people, I think if you play either of those, it's probably a pretty good toss up. But you know, there were some whatever. We'll get into it maybe some more. Jimmy,
Yes. Time to move on to that next category, right? Okay.
props, Jimmy.
Okay. So we're moving on now to most disappointing game, which is I've killed Joe. I don't think he knew what we were going to be talking about next, but it's really funny. Very good. So most disappointing video game, and the nominees are Gotham Knights and Overwatch 2. And the winner is Gotham Knights. Okay, so we were just talking about Overwatch 2 and some of the shortcomings potentially with it, and even some of the shortcomings with Gotham Knights beforehand. But here's the deal. Overwatch 2 and Gotham Knights, they are not bad games by any stretch. They really aren't. I think for us, they're both sequels of franchises that we love. And so you go in and it's hard not to have these kind of lofty expectations, especially with Overwatch, because Overwatch kind of came out of nowhere and there was not like something we loved and then we fell in love with something. With Gotham Knights, it was like finally the chance to play Arkham City with Joe. And it was like, oh, this is going to be so cool. Like we're both Batman in a way. Like we're not Batman, but you know. And while Joe and I had some fun, we played it over the holiday break, just kind of quietly. Like we just a couple of nights, we just kind of ran through it. We had a good time with it. Again, not a
Yeah.
bad game, but because of some of the technical issues, which I think a lot of them have been fixed by now. I was seeing stuff that it was coming up, like they got it up to 60 frames maybe, or there's something happening where they had fixed a lot of issues with it. And I was happy to see that. But I think it's more of a longevity, staying power thing, more kind of co-op, because that game is so focused on you should play it with other people, that there should be more kind of co-op focus things, or kind of maybe different types of situations where it's like one of you has to do something over here and another one has to do something kind of, nearby, that's like kind of, I don't know, like there was a few times where it was just like Joe would end up fighting all the guys and I would have to go deliver a thing to an ambulance a ways away, and it was just like, oh, I kind of hate splitting up unless both things are going to be fun. And that's where I think some of the shortcomings came into it. Even though I really do like the roster and the powers and the bosses for the most part.
How about
I
the aesthetics, like the gear and stuff?
I thought it was all right. It looked okay. Some of it definitely better than others. But trying to figure
Oh
out how to
yeah,
unlock it was like kind of tricky sometimes. But then once you got it, it was like, oh yeah. And then the transmog, thankfully, they gave you that early on, so you didn't have to have like this kind of mismatched look. You could just like hit a button and be like, yeah, I want all that gear, but also I have this look that I really like, and that's what I'm gonna be
yeah.
wearing. I was like, that was
And they had
smart.
some cool ones, but they made you work for them, which
Yeah.
understandably so.
Yeah, I just wanted more of the co-op, like combo attack stuff. They had a little bit of that, but I wanted more. And I was just thinking, like, this feels like a really nice base. I have no idea how well it's sold. I don't know how well it like reviewed, but I'm hopeful they could come around again because I would be interested in coming back to this if there was just there's more. But yeah,
Sure.
still, again, not a bad game by any stretch. But it was just comparatively to what we were kind of hoping it was going to be kind of maybe fell short. Whereas Overwatch 2 just felt like, yeah, more Overwatch, which is like, that's kind of disappointing, but at the same time, it's still Overwatch. So,
Yeah, still more, you
yeah,
know. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, so,
but yeah, sorry, I need to address my laughing attack.
yeah.
It's because the inside joke about my drink, the joke before we started recording, I took a drink and I started thinking of it, and it
I thought you were laughing because you were talking about Overwatch so much and then being so great
no,
and then going into that. I was like,
nothing that would not get that kind of reaction
yeah,
out of me. I was
yeah,
anyway, so I might have to clear my throat a few more times. But
that's fine.
Gotham Knights, yeah, most disappointing. I think the only thing disappointing about it for me were, yeah, number one, yeah, like the frame rate. Number two, number two was sometimes the co-op just taking a crap on us.
Yeah.
That was a little annoying. It didn't happen too much, but it was maybe once a night. Like if we hopped on
Yeah.
the evening on a weekend, we
Yeah.
played Friday, Saturday, we get 4 hours of gaming. I
Yeah.
think towards the later part it would probably glitch out on us. But
Yeah.
um, what else disappointing about it? I think just the fact that yeah, like it was good enough that you wanted more, but it was short.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it left me wanting more, which is great, but it needed more for a one installment. And it still would have left me wanting more, probably even more so if it would have just had a little bit more legs.
Yeah. And I think they're flirting with
So
the idea of making it like a games as a service, kind of like Overwatch, so that people keep coming back to it. And I don't think it had enough stuff in there to do that, which is too bad.
that's the problem, yeah.
And I look at it too as like, if with like the Suicide Squad game coming up, the way to do it maybe is to like say, oh yeah, there'll be another character. Like you can play as Batman. Like you don't, it's not story driven, but like he's a character that you can play in the game now because we have all the assets, and or you can play as Ra's al Ghul or something weird. Like that kind of stuff to me is what would hook me back in. But yeah, I'm just curious
Sure.
to see if they make a sequel. I don't know. Again, not a bad game, interesting idea, and some of the fights were cool. The Mr. Freeze stuff to me was really great, but yeah, that's about it. That's all I have to say about that. Still enjoyed it though. Still fun.
Yeah. All right. Shall we move on?
We shall.
I cleared my throat once more.
That's all right. Clear it out as many
That
times as you
ginger
need.
ale. Whew. Refreshing, but boy, does it hit hard.
Yeah.
Bubbles.
Not for the faint of heart. Not for the faint of heart.
Excuse me. All right. So next category is most disappointing TV series. Let's face it, a lot of us get our entertainment from streaming services now. TV series, big thing. People like to binge a show or every week, Sunday night, that's the night to watch this show with the fam or with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
So, category worth covering. The nominees are Obi-Wan Kenobi, She-Hulk, and the Rings of Power. And the Critty goes to, I feel weird saying the Critty goes to the worst of this category. They get an award for being the worst. Anyway.
Disappointing, not the worst. It's different, right?
Disappointing. Sure, disappointing. Sorry, not the worst.
Yeah.
For whoever's listening.
We don't do those. We don't do the worst because we love you guys, whoever you are.
Yeah. Like, good try. Good
Good
try.
try. Good try.
Jimmy, I'm going to let you read the envelope, please.
Whoa, it's a deep one. Okay, sorry about that. Rings of Power.
I think before I get into it, let's just both agree She-Hulk just had to be on here because bad, and I didn't even watch it.
Okay,
Well, Joe, how can you judge something you didn't even watch?
you're honest
I
though
saw
about it.
one ad for it. Blah.
Here's like I watched all of She-Hulk, and because I've kind of watched almost all the Marvel stuff that's out there at the time of this recording, and I just love the Hulk so much, and I just miss when he used to be angry, and that's I watched the show hoping to get, and I know it's not about him, but I knew he was going to be in like a couple episodes, so I was like maybe he'll get back to like Rage Hulk, like angry Hulk. That's all I wanted really. We didn't get that, but we did get some Daredevil, and that was nice. Like, yeah, he might not be exactly the same as the one that you remember, but still, I think that actor is super good. Is Charlie
The one from
Cox?
the next Netflix series?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is so good. He's like perfect at that role. Side note, he was saying that after he'd done so much Daredevil, when he would go audition for other things, it was hard for him to actually look at someone in the eyes because he's like, when I'd play Matt Murdock, I always had to pretend like I couldn't see, so I'd always look down to the ground or whatever else. So they were like, he's like, yeah, it took me a while to be like, oh, I have to look back at who I'm talking to. I was like, oh, that's so quaint.
Funny.
But yeah, I'm just curious to see where they put her in the future if she will truly become an Avenger and all that stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of one of the other reasons I watched. And we have a mutual friend that is a huge She-Hulk fan, so I kind of also watched it for her. Our friend Sarah, aka Boss to me, she loved She-Hulk and Scarlet Witch before they were big in the MCU. And then I was like, you should love the things I love because apparently whatever you love get their own television shows. And like I was like, man, because back in the day, back in college, I was like, ooh, you love these characters? I don't know if they'll ever kind of like get full movies or TV shows. Well, here I sit corrected, basically. She's got all these, and yet no Ghost Rider television show. I know he was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know, but that wasn't even, that's Robbie
Doesn't
Reyes.
count.
I want Johnny Blaze. That's why I keep watching all the Marvel stuff, Joe, because Johnny's going to show up at some point. And he's going to show up with his flaming skeleton. And I was like, maybe She-Hulk, maybe Multiverse of Madness. Nothing.
Most
Nothing.
powerful character in the Marvel Universe.
Well, at least one of. He's great. Anyway, so that's what I would say. Also, there's a little weird meta break at the end of She-Hulk, spoilers, where they're on the Disney lot. And for me, as a Disney nerd, I'm always like, anytime I see that lot, I'm like, ooh, Disney lot. So, yeah.
Well, they took what makes the Hulk cool and stripped him of it and turned him into a joke. And I don't enjoy it. That's why I'm pretty bummed on it. And yeah.
So Joe's going to watch all of She-Hulk now just to make sure he feels this way.
I might go watch it just to prove that my take was correct.
You're sitting there throughout 9 episodes and you're like, at the very end, you're like, mm-hmm.
I said it. I stand by it.
I would love that.
No, it's still bad.
That'd be. I would listen to that commentary. A 9-hour, just you sitting there, just going, it's just like,
Yeah. To be honest, I don't have a problem with She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Maybe the way they went about it may be a little weird, but I guess you got to do it somehow.
Yeah.
When they ended the whole Avengers saga and everything, and all of a sudden Hulk is like a wuss, and then all of a sudden now he's smart. Not having it.
Yeah.
I remember the first Avengers where he's like, that's the thing about me, I'm always angry. Just hulks out and frickin' just pummels that thing into pile drives it into the goosebump type mommoments.
I'm getting goosebumps
Marvel,
now just thinking
what
about
happened to my goosebump moments?
I remember when he got in a fight with Tony and he leveled that city basically. That whole fight is one of the best superhero fights. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, we're spending too much time on She-Hulk. It doesn't deserve our attention. Jimmy, why don't you give us a little snapshot of Obi-Wan and why we thought it should be a nominee for this category?
So here's the deal with Obi-Wan for me personally. I say a lot of people are my guy, and I try not to, but truly at the end of the day, if I had to pick one fictitious character who was my guy, it'd be Darth Vader. I love Darth Vader so much, and it was great to see him in this, all right? He gets a few great moments, and I know it's not called Darth Vader. The show's not called Darth Vader, but the whole show is built on the premise of Obi fighting Darth. They do have two fights. I think they're like, it's okay. It's not to the level that I was hoping for, but I grew up on the prequels and the original trilogy, but mostly the prequels. And it seems like the sword fighting and all that stuff is not to the level it used to be. And that's one of my favorite things about Star Wars. I know some people have said like it's too overly technical. It seems like they're dancing, all this stuff, but like it's so cool. I love it. And the thought of a lightsaber moving that fast is scary. So if you can make him really, really good with it, adept, that makes every fight scene really great. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show focuses not so much on Obi, but other characters, which I wasn't really expecting. And I love Ewan McGregor. Like, if you had to say take one thing out of the prequels, like one aspect of it, I honestly would say it's his performance as Obi-Wan. I do like Hayden Christensen too, which I know is kind of a hot take, but I love Revenge of the Sith. And the
Return of the King.
Return of the King. Yeah, I also love Return of the King. You're right. But I loved seeing both of them return for this. And honestly, my dream scenario for Obi-Wan was like him sitting in the present day, as it were, in a cave on Tatooine, like meditating, and it's just all flashbacks with him and Hayden. Because we get a little bit of that, but I wanted the whole show to be that. And maybe that's an unfair thing to put on the show, but because I knew the show was this in-betweequel, which is tough because it's got paint on both sides, like it's really in a corner, but then also in the corner there's paint too, so it's like it has to occupy a tiny little space that nothing really can happen. It makes it like kind of like, okay, this is all right, you can tell this story, but I just wanted more personally of the Hayden Christensen stuff because it was just, I remember seeing him in the field. There's one moment where Obi's having like these like kind of force visions, and like Anakin's kind of ghost in a way is kind of stalking him, or like Obi thinks he sees him. And I just remember getting so excited about this idea that like Obi has this like trauma that's been following him, and then he has to run into Vader and be like confront it. I don't know. And the show doesn't really focus on that as much, and I just wish there was more of that personally. But anytime I can see Vader, I'm still like, I'm not gonna say it's the worst show because I'm like, it's Darth Vader. Like, I am happy when I see Vader. He like drags a person through the streets at one point. He's like killing people in this town, and I'm like, yes, like I am a sick person. Like that, like shouldn't I could watch that for 2 hours and I'd be like, this is great. I'd be like, he's just trying to get some information. Like, I just like modern Vader because they're finally showing him, like in Rogue One, at his true power, and I want so much of that, and he does get that. He has a fight with Reva, who's like this other kind of main character, but there's this great moment where it might spoil it a little, but they're fighting back and forth. He gets both lightsabers and he's dual wielding for like 1 second, and he has both of them. He turns it off and throws it back to her, like, pick up your sword. And anytime a character does that in a fight to the death is the most cool power move to me, when they kick the weapon back, like, pick it up. You're going to need it. It's like, oh, baby. Cool. I'm like, I just love watching Vader. He just toys with her. And it's just, oh.
So what you're saying is, obviously, that's why it doesn't, fall number one in this category, because there was a fair amount of good stuff in there. Like, they had some glimmers of, sparks in the pan, or whatever you say, flash in the pan.
Yeah. A little Palpatine action. It's good.
I'll say for me, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think the only flaw I found with it was that there were times where it wasn't very, I don't want to say focused, but like sometimes it felt almost a little too slow of pacing for me.
Sure.
But like the moments you described, especially with Vader, and I mean it's pretty cliche to say, but it's I was kind of drooling over the fan service, like show me more Vader.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have him rip the side hull of a ship out again, please.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
right.
it's just so addicting, and you just gobble it up, right? It's just, but yeah, a lot of it for me was it fell a little flat because of like the pacing, and I feel like with something like that, with those two, pardon the slang, but like OG characters like that,
Yeah.
was so much love around them from the community. People are so excited about series like that. I feel like they kind of got there, but man, you can do so much more with it and make it so much more profound, even within the same like level of like the budget's not small,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know, there's just more potential there, and maybe we'll see more. I'm assuming they're going through another season of it and all that.
I don't
Um,
know if they are or not. The thing about this,
no,
like Boba Fett, they were both originally concepts for films that got kind of spread out a little bit more to put them on Disney Plus as an actual television show. So maybe that's the
uh,
issues you might have with the pacing is that originally think of this as like a 2 or 2.5 hour movie.
so they had to kind of
It would have been
expand.
Vader versus Obi-Wan, that would have been the movie. It's like Godzilla versus Kong. Like it'd be like that's what I came to see. Might as well just call it Obi versus
Sure,
Vader. Like I don't like just show me.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, yeah, the pacing just didn't quite work for me. I enjoyed it, but yeah, I was kind of like, okay, anytime." Like, yeah,
Mm.
but those flashes in the pan, man, I really enjoyed them. So they kept me there. So,
Yeah.
anyway, enough about the two runner-ups.
Mm.
Uh, let's get to the main course, shall we? Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Boy, I've been amped for stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like a season of Game of Thrones or
Hmm.
um, House of the Dragon. That's how amped I was.
Yeah.
Probably more so. Let's say more so. It's freaking
Okay.
Lord of the Rings, man.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about it. Our buddy Drew had a lot of input on it. He basically was like, "I'm done watching." Or did he even watch? Yeah, he watched it. He just
Did he finish it?
did he st I don't think he finished it. I think
I
he
don't remember.
disliked it so much he didn't finish it. I I could recognize a lot of the shortcomings. And again, there was a pacing issue for me. I found it to be a little boring at times.
Mm.
Pretty, like the shots and the scenes and
Oh,
stuff,
gorgeous.
pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes I found myself getting a little bored. And if I kind of sat back and like opened my mind to it and just kind of absorbed it, I could kind of appreciate it, like the
Mm.
style and things and the things that they were doing. Um, and the history there, they're going off of, you know, that world and the history of it, right?
Yeah.
So there's accuracy, which I can appreciate, and like references the characters and things. I will say that I really appreciated like the mystery of who's Sauron or who's the mysterious guy that fell from the sky.
Sure.
Everybody's like, "That's Sauron. That's got to be him."
Yeah.
Well, no, it's Gandalf. In that whole debate,
Yeah.
that was kind of fun. Um, there's a lot of like you can punch a lot of holes in the plot too. Like I've seen so many videos. There's that one guy that does the impression of Gandalf, and he's kicked back on the couch like, "Oh, what idiots! Why don't they do?" Ian McKellen, the
Yeah.
impressionist, and that's kind of funny, and they're kind of poking fun at some of the shortcomings of the show. So if you really want to delve into it, you can go watch that kind of stuff. But again, it's one of those series that had a lot of flashes in the pan or a few, but just not enough to like this is Lord of the Rings and it is so grand
Yeah.
that you just fall in love immediately. It wasn't
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I think, we've talked a little bit about it off the record, but we kind of feel like this season, the way they did it, it was almost just like the whole plot was just a lot of setup, right?
Yeah.
And like, oh, here's how they created the rings, and here's the relationship between these two, and here's where Mithril comes from, and
Yeah.
here's the Balrog where it was, and here's um and here's how I'm forgetting all the terms, but the people on the island come to the mainland, and
Mm-hmm.
here's and all that's fine. Like I can sit back now and think about it and appreciate that. Especially for people who were younger during Lord of the Rings and don't understand all the background and lore to it and are coming in fresh. Okay. But yeah, there's stuff about it that just doesn't quite hit right for you. And it doesn't establish itself as like, when those Lord of the Rings movies came out, The Fellowship, like I was so amped for the next one to come out at Christmas time. I was like, as a teenager, I wasn't even a teenager at the time. I
Nope.
would have been even younger.
11, 12, and 13.
Exactly. I
Yep.
was, dude. I, Christmas, what? Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you just can't beat them, and the practical effects of it all and everything. Which in here, I will say, I mean, obviously there's some CG for sure, but there's a lot of good practical stuff like the orcs, people in suits and makeup,
Yeah.
right?
Mm, yeah. Hmm.
Which I love.
Yeah. Me too.
So in that regard, I will say, I appreciate it more than The Hobbit.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
That's true.
I don't feel bad saying that. Um, I'll admit, I found myself fast forwarding every time were they hobbits?
Oh, the
The
Harfoots.
yeah, every time they were on screen, I just hit the fast forward button. I couldn't take it. I was just like, these people are a joke. It is annoying. And I just couldn't take it. I couldn't take it seriously when they were on screen. And God, you want to talk about slow? Collect me some apples. Oh, he's a helpful giant. Like, shut up. Shut up. There's some poison berries over there. Go eat them all, please. I just, I couldn't take it. It was so silly feeling to me for some reason. Whereas if I go back to like the Fellowship, Hobbits, okay, I knew what they were and all that from The Hobbit and all that, but there's something about them and the characters. Yeah, there's a lightheartedness there, but you also take them very seriously, especially when they establish the ring and Frodo takes the ring. All of a sudden, there's such a weighty character for the whole entire thing. Obviously, you appreciate them more
Yeah.
because there's a little vein of seriousness to them,
Yeah.
and that's where I just don't get that from here. One of the things that I appreciated the most in this was, well, I did say the mystery of like, Sauron. And then at the end when they establish him, I won't spoil it for everyone. It's cool. I can dig that. The other thing I appreciated the most was shoot, now I'm drawing a blank on it. Oh, the relationship between the main elf character,
Elrond.
Elrond,
Or Galadriel, depending on who
and
you ask.
Elrond
Ah,
and the dwarf
Durin.
Durin. I loved it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Me too.
Anytime they had scenes with them together, even though a lot of it was mostly, conversation and talking, I still loved it.
Yeah.
And whoever plays Durin, I mean, I love
Super good.
so good. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that. And Elrond himself too. I appreciate that. But I'm hoping that when it comes back, I'm really hoping it comes back.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Yeah. I mean, they paid money for it. They got to try and make it successful somehow. So, anyway, I'm really hoping that a season two will be okay. We've set everything up. You know a little bit about enough. Sauron, here's the main push. and it starts to ascend. So that's my hope. Little disappointing. I could kind of open my mind to appreciate it enough that I watched it all the way through, took what I could from it. I don't plan to go back and watch it. So a little disappointing when it bears you know, the title of Lord of the Rings. So sorry, long-winded.
That's
you have
okay.
anything to add?
No, I think you nailed it right on the head. I'm just Lord of the Rings is, as I've said before, it's my favorite trilogy. It's my favorite thing. If someone said like movie, game, music, or whatever, if you could only pick one thing, it would be the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's unfair of me to try to compare anything to that, and I try not to, but I'm hopeful that subsequent seasons they just get better and better, and eventually, if they do 5 seasons, that last one will be like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I just think there's a part of me that wishes it was more of an anthology, where it's just like instead of doing one specific kind of storyline or multiple like that, it's just every episode is something different and kind of focused on a different portion of the very vast mythos that Tolkien has created. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes in season 2. So, yes. Yeah. Are you ready to move on to our next category, sir?
Take it away, pal.
All right, now we're moving on to Best Action Movie of 2022. And the nominees are Top Gun Maverick, The Gray Man, and Prey. And the Critty goes to Top Gun Maverick. Okay, so Joe and I were talking about this. We were talking about action movies, and Joe, like, I want to give a little love to Gray Man. It's a good movie. I think Netflix poured a ton of money and budget into this, and the Russo brothers, who I love from Captain America Civil War, Winter Soldier, Infinity War, and Endgame, go on to make this kind of crazy action movie, and I really did enjoy it. Also, Prey came out, which is like this kind of prequel Predator movie that was interesting. I did enjoy it. It was kind of thought-provoking because it's like, how do you fight a predator in the modern age, let alone back when like flintlock pistols were the height of technology. So it was cool in that regard. But when it really comes down to it, the technical prowess, I need to see this in a movie theater movie that was Top Gun Maverick supersedes it. And the fact that they put these actors in these jets, Tom himself learned how to fly one of them, like, and to do one of those takeoffs off a aircraft carrier, which like nobody gets to do unless you're like certified and know what you're doing, because like you can just go.
He did that on an aircraft carrier.
He did it on an aircraft carrier, which like if you screw that up at all is death. Like, you know.
But what was he flying? Wasn't he was in more of a trainer jet, right? He wasn't actually in an F-18. Were the 18s in the movie? I might have to go back and rewatch it.
Dude, it's great. And also, it's funny because like the beginning of this movie is very much how like Buzz Lightyear movie starts too, where they have like he's training like a super special thing and he's like pushing it to the. I was like, whoa, this is weird. Anyway, just that alone, and yeah, it's amazing to me personally that not only that this movie got made and made to the way that it did, but that it's a sequel from something that came out like 40 years ago or 35 years ago or whatever it is, and it's this good and has the amount of love for its source material, for Val Kilmer, for all that stuff. It's
Everyone
incredible.
likes fighter jets.
Fighter jets are just cool, and it's very, you know, America, like, yeah, America, fighter jets, but and they do such a smart job of not ever saying who the enemy is. It's just this kind of nondescript, could be a few different, you know, groups, but they never say like, oh, we're going after this group or that group. And I was like, good on you guys. It's just a good movie. And shout out to Miles Teller too for doing a great job of like working with Tom and like playing off each other. It's like, wow, that would be really tough to do, but he has his own thing, has his own rival and Hangman, like all this stuff. And Jennifer Connelly, guys, I'll be honest with you, when I was a young lad and The Incredible Hulk came out with Eric Bana, who underrated Bruce Banner. Great Bruce Banner. Jennifer Connelly is his Betty Ross, and that was like my crush. when I was a kid. One of. And I don't know what she's done, but when I saw her pop up in this movie, I was like, how is it that you haven't aged one single day, miss? And I was
Let's
like,
say that to Tom Cruise too.
Tom looks great. And like the fact that he's so committed to making the best possible movie and in a movie theater, I don't know. And it clearly has shown so many people have resonated with this movie. A lot of people who didn't go see movies in movie theaters for a while were going out to see this not once, but twice or maybe thrice. It's just beautiful. And it's just like a straightforward, great action movie. And because it's basically all real, you feel it in the action sequences. Like it's hard not to feel it like in your heart. You're like, oh my gosh, like this is an IMAX movie. Like if you can go see this in IMAX, like that's the way you should be seeing it. But still good at home because you watched it, Joe, with your family at home and you still enjoyed it.
I did, yeah. Right after Christmas, we were, I was winding down one night, and it was like, "Hey, let's what movie we want to watch tonight? Let's turn the bass up." And I was like, "Top Gun," because I had not seen it, and I really wish I could have seen it in theaters, but I couldn't afford the time to get out. But yeah, it was great. It was worth the watch, and kind of to add on to what you were saying there about it, Jimmy, its success and the reason people like it so much and speak so highly of it, I think, it can ride that wave of nostalgia a lot.
Yeah.
And also it appeals to a very wide demographic.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it doesn't really fit into, it's a military movie, action movie. It's just it reaches a wide swath of demographic, and it's like parents that were like all gung ho about the original Top Gun. Oh yeah, I gotta bring the kids to see this one. It's such a thing. So it's like whole families are going, younger generations going. It's fighter jets. People just love that kind of stuff. It's almost too easy.
Yeah.
It's a really easily marketable movie. You're reaching a broad demographic, so it's going to be successful to some degree. And in this case, it was very successful. So, and yeah, I mean, you've got great people behind it, and yeah, Tom Cruise pretty passionate about it. And what more can you say about it? Good stuff.
Good stuff. Yes. Well, shall we move on to our next category, sir?
Absolutely. This one a little overstuffed, so maybe we'll just kind of breeze over a few here. Um, this category is favorite TV series, unlike most disappointing TV series. So, favorite TV series. Quite a few nominees in this category. Lots of good stuff as of recent. To kick things off, we have White Lotus season 2, but White Lotus in general. First season was 2021 July. Season 2 was October of 2022, something like that. Our next nominee, Only Murders in the Building. Slow go. Good stuff. Next nominee, Andor. Star Wars. Okay. I already want to start talking about it. Our next nominee, Bad Batch. Star Wars again. And the next nominee, Reacher. And our next nominee. And our next nominee. And our next nominee. Is there an echo in here?
Yeah.
Clarkson's Farm. Season 2, kind of, sort of, technically, yeah. Clarkson's Farm. Our next nominee, House of the Dragon. And our final nominee, The Terminalist. And I think in a first ever occurrence, we have a split on the winner.
Might have that.
On my end of things, I've got number one coming in as Only Murders in the Building.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy,
Yeah.
our split. Who did you have?
I wrote it down. Hold on a sec. Let me check. Same card for everything, but it's fine. I have the Bad Batch. Now, here's the weird thing, Joe, because it's stacked. All right, it's hard to compare all these because I'll honestly, a lot of these I love. I really do. Like, I know in my brain some of the stuff I saw in House of the Dragon, not stuff you should love, but I'll be honest with you, it was compelling and it's good. I'm
super entertaining,
and I shouldn't like the person I like the most in that show, but I do, because I'm like, that guy gets stuff done. And I'm like, good for you, buddy. But like, or Clarkson's Farm. I would love to say that was my favorite one, but it's a show about where he has to like go and get rid of his cows in a horrible way, I'd imagine. But I love the show, and Jeremy Clarkson is fun to watch. So is James May, so is Richard Hammond, all those guys. So if they get a show about them painting a door, I'd probably like the show. Because they're good presenters.
Somehow they find a way to make it entertaining.
Every single one of them is great. So, like, Clarkson's Farm is desperately binge-worthy. For me, though, because I haven't caught up on White Lotus or Only Murders in the Building.
Have you not seen White Lotus?
I've seen the first season. And the manager of that, who also shows up in The Last of Us, it was my favorite character. I thought he was played brilliantly. Like, everybody does a great job in that show, but like, he's the most interesting one because he's so like two sides of the same coin. And as someone who's been in hospitality, he is like a great example of like someone who's just forward facing, just whatever we can do to make your stay better. And then like he goes around a corner, he's like, you know, like,
it is so great. You would enjoy season 2 if you ever want to watch it. You let me know. But
I will. Yeah, no, I will.
Season 1 was like prime.
Yeah, it's great. And Only Murders in the Building, like any show Martin Short's going to be in, like it's still going to be good, even if I'm not as crazy about. I think I'll go back to it. A lot of shows for me, and I don't know if you're this way too, Joe, where you watch like the first episode of something and you're like, it's not for me, and then you give it a few like years, and then you come back and you watch all of it. Like your brain's like, yeah, now you know what you're doing.
Yeah,
it's like,
or your taste changes a little bit, or
exactly. But for me, I did want to give a little special mention to Andor because it was just a really smartly written Star Wars thing, which it kind of barely felt like Star Wars sometimes. Like you could have switched it out for other kind of sci-fi stuff and it could have fit the mold. But I think Cassian Andor is a cool character. I also love Skarsgård is just so good. And again, like the manager in White Lotus, he's this character who's all just like forward facing. Oh yes, hi, how can I help you? Would you like to buy an antique or something? But like he's this like rebel spy master, and it's just like, oh, that's cool. But the show that I was consistently finding that I loved the most, even though there were a few episodes here and there, like one or two I wasn't as crazy about, was Bad Batch. And it's a CG show. It's not live action or anything, but I loved it. It looks super good. It's really compelling. And I love the characters. And the best part about it might be the fact that all the main characters are voiced by the same guy. D. Bradley.
Really?
Yeah, D. Bradley Baker. He's done like all the voices for all the clones. And
impressive.
It's so good because like they're just different enough, especially in the group itself, which is very Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like, where they've got like the smart guy, the leader guy, the big buff guy, like stuff like that. But he does just enough to pitch his voice and basically have conversations with himself, which I have no idea when he records this if he's looking at just the script and he's reading each of them like separately and then they master them together, or if he just goes through and he just changes on the fly. If that's the case, if it's the latter, this guy deserves,
Bravo.
like, I don't know what you're paying him. It needs to be more. Like, it's so good. It's so good. So I just love that show. If you've never checked it out, if you're into Star Wars at all, it's a really interesting show. They did a backdoor pilot in the last season of the Clone Wars where they introduced these guys, but it's just really interesting, fun show, and characters like Palpatine might show up once in a while, just like not to fight them or anything, but there's bigger characters that kind of come into play here and there, and it's just like, it's such a good show. It's a really good show. Don't sleep on Bad Batch.
I haven't gotten that far to see some of those bigger characters become involved, but I remember, I think I made it through season 1 or most of.
Yeah, you weren't as sold on it
Um,
though, right?
you know, things of that nature tend not to like grip me as much, but I do
Sure.
remember, I mean, it was well done. I didn't not enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then I echo all the same things about like Clarkson's Farm. So Bad Batch was your pick.
That's my
I
pick.
like it.
I know it's a weird
Yeah, that's
pick.
a good one.
I loved it.
What are your thoughts on Reacher, Jimmy?
I
Why'd that make
liked
the list?
I liked Reacher a lot actually. The one thing that I couldn't get over, and I know it's because he's like a Tom Clancy character, right? Is that where Reacher comes from? I
Yes.
think. Watch,
Jack
I'll be like,
Reacher.
I could be wrong about
Yeah.
that. Either way, um, or Jack Ryan.
Yeah. That
Either way,
gets
he's a
confusing.
book character of some sort. And the whole point is he's almost Mad Maxian in a way where he like rolls into a town, stuff happens, and then he leaves the town. And it's like, that's like kind of what at least this season was. And that seems like
I
the
liked how
character
it
is.
intertwined and related to him, though.
Yeah, I don't know if subsequent seasons will, because I think the books kind of stop that, which it seems weird to me.
Makes
But
sense.
the funniest part about it is that while I did like the show and I went through it pretty quickly, I watched it when I was back home in Minnesota because I was like, I just popped this on, and then I was getting into it. But a great cast. Absolutely love the lead. But he's so funny in this show because like he does team up with the police, and they are totally okay with some stranger rolling into their town, causing chaos, bedlam, murdering tons of people, and they're just like, well, we got to get to the bottom of whatever this is. And it's like, not
Yeah.
that they could stop him if they tried, but when it came down to
Well,
that, sorry, you
uh,
get
I,
you got
I
something
want
you
to
want to interrupt?
comment on what you just said because I feel like it's important. So, for those who haven't watched the show, bleep this out for just like 2 minutes, real quick.
It's not gonna
Two,
be 2 minutes.
3 minutes, real quick.
25 minutes, okay? Just 25 minutes.
Okay. Alan Richardson, love the guy.
Love him.
When I first started watching, I'll come back to that. The part I wanted to comment on is like these cops in this town are just totally okay with this guy like starting to get involved and he can help us. I kind of bought it enough. Like
Sure.
the
Yeah.
guy's smart,
Yeah.
prior experience and all applied, and he seemed to like just be on point with everything, predicting things, and the cops are just looking at him cross-eyed, like, how did you know that? Well, because by this and this and this, and they're like, God, you're better than we are. We need you. Okay, fine. But then all of a sudden, like, he starts going a little rogue and like he shoots those two guys in the back in that farm field, loads them in the trunk, and then later shows his love interest, who I thought was great, by the way.
Mhm.
And she's like, the exit wound is out the front. You said you shot him in self-defense. He's like, well, they were going to shoot me if they saw me, so I pulled the trigger first.
Yep.
And she's just like, oh, whatever. It's like, yeah, like I was like, yeah, you really overlooked that. But I mean, I think the only reason I can be like, okay, is because shit was so bad that they were like, it's fine.
Sure.
Like, let's overlook this because technically it's almost like judge, jury, executioner. Not right, but I feel like I would have done the same damn thing in
Sure.
his shoes. Like,
Yeah.
it seemed appropriate. These are pretty bad people, right? So it it's a great story, complex and all that for people coming back after muting me for a minute there. Um, yeah, I just wanted to comment on that because you're so right. Like these
Thank you.
cops are just totally fine with it. And I thought at that moment, I said to Haley, because we watched it together as like our nightly show during the week, and I said, that's gonna come back to haunt him, right? Like he can't just do that and then still keep going
No, he's fine.
along like he's been.
Yeah.
No, it was fine. It was fine.
He's fine.
Anyway, you were on a tear. Continue. Sorry.
Oh
to
no, that's
interrupt.
fine. No, no worries. But the thing is, because nothing exists in a vacuum, I was kind of maybe unfairly comparing it to a lot of the other military kind of spy things that Amazon's been putting out, which have been fantastic. But the Terminal List was like the thing. If you were like, Jimmy, what's your favorite thing on Amazon like that last year? I think it was that. Chris Pratt, like, people joke about seeing him in too many things, and to be honest, I just envy him as an actor myself. I look at all the stuff he's doing. He's moved from comedy on television to drama and superhero stuff and voice work, all this stuff.
Blockbuster boy.
Yeah, but he's doing such a great job. And when you watch Terminal List, you totally, or at least for me, I bought like the strife and the fact that he was having issues remembering what had happened, and the tear he was on made sense from his point of view. And that's where that movie or that show, I was like, oh yeah, this guy is, there's never like a version where he comes out of doing all the stuff he's done and they're like, you get like some medals, friend. Like, you're definitely, we need you back working for the military. It was like, nope, the stuff he's done, he's like, I'm gone. I can't be part of anything anymore. But I just really liked that show, and I think he did an excellent job. But still, Reacher was great, and if you had to watch that and Terminalist and then Jack Ryan, and like, I mean, you're gonna have a good time. Like, those are all really good shows.
Sure, yeah. I only started the Terminal List. It had some legs. I just didn't get sucked in the first episode and a half. So I gotta go back and give it a fair shot and
Only if you
try
want
and
to.
yeah, and then I hear a lot about Jack Ryan from you and Drew. Sounds good. Just haven't got the chance. Reacher, to further my comments on that show, it was almost my pick here for this category. I Alan Ritchson does such a good job, and what's funny is because I primarily know him from he had a little stint in Smallville back in the day playing Aquaman for a minute. He was fine for that role, fit the part, all that blonde, Jack guy, whatever. But then he was on a show called Blue Mountain State for a while. And back in college, like that was my show. It was like a comedy, like football team college deal. And it was kind of zany, and he was the zany character. Well, the zaniest, like just silly as all get out. And when I watched that show back then, I'm like, yeah, he's like 20 something. No, he was like 30 something playing a college guy. But he was just so funny. And then when I saw he was doing this, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. He also played Mikey in Ninja Turtles, the James Bay version.
Really? He did the voice and
Yeah,
stuff. Oh,
he
I
did the
didn't
voice of
know
Mike
that.
while he
That's
was
crazy.
Mikey. Yeah,
That's good voice
so
acting
the
if you don't know.
mocap stuff and all that.
Good for him.
Um,
Dang, that's impressive.
yeah, so he's done some stuff. He's really kind of ascended and climbed the ladder, so to speak. But so when I see him in this, I keep thinking Thad Castle from Blue Mountain State, and I'm like, when's he gonna do the line, but it showed his range because this is such a much more serious character.
Yep.
And I just really enjoyed the dynamic of him and his love interest, the cop. She was great. I liked, I forget the guy's name that played the detective, but
yeah, he was good too. Yeah,
he was
wonderful.
really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed him, and it was just a great kind of trio there of main characters. And obviously, based on novel or books, I think it's just really well done and really well put together, and in the pacing too.
Yeah,
I love the pacing of it. It was good. I The one thing that kind of stuck out to me time and time again was like I understand that things like this, it's so serious they want to like inject a little, here's a little haha. I was so sucked into him being like the badass, like break the zip tie cuffs, like
yep.
like just like kill this guy with a punch. And every once in a while when he would do that little like haha, I was like okay. Sometimes it was really appropriate. Other times it was a little like guy, you know. Um, but it was a really good show. I encourage people to go check it out. The one thing I recall that I was like, what the hell is the where he goes to that couple's house that they've just kind of left. First of all, he's using both their cars. He's like, I'm gonna need your keys. And he's just trashing her car. And then eventually he trashes that one and he starts driving her the guy's Bentley. I don't know. It's just I found that kind of funny. But when he goes to that house and he sets up like a Home Alone sequence,
Mm-hmm.
and those guys come in to do the hit on him, he uh he starts fighting that little guy in the pool. First off, I'm like, this little guy would stand no freaking chance.
Mm-hmm.
But then Reacher's getting hit in the face with a crowbar. I'm like, I don't care who you are, big, small, whatever, unless you're Superman, that's really effing you up.
Yeah. Right.
Like, you're screwed up big time. And when he's in the pool passed out, he's bleeding, he's got gashes and stuff. Somehow, after he's done killing that guy, he goes and he cleans up, and his face is perfect again. I'm like, the crowbar was plastic.
Yeah. His
Yeah.
face is really strong. He was doing blue steel. Yeah. He's like, and then just
Yeah.
dink.
Yeah. I was like, a little unrealistic. They should have thought their way around that a little bit better. But anyway, great show. Almost my pick for winner here. But for me, it was only Murders in the Building. Um, I think we can kind of skip over House of the Dragon. It's Game of Thrones type stuff. Everybody loves it.
Mm.
You talked about it a little bit. Dragons, dragons, dragons. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We kind of covered the rest of them. Only Murders in the Building for me was there's something about it. Like it's serious, but it's lighthearted. It kind of keeps you on your toes, like you're kind of working along with them. It's like a little mystery deal, and it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a game of Clue. And Selena Gomez in there, I know maybe some people consider a slight drawback. Like I know you're kind of like, yeah, she just like she swears too much. It's a little jarring. It's a little sometimes she's a little too like yeah, she's appealing to like that younger generation or like that relatability factor for them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm more in it for sometimes I like her play off of the two older guys, Steve Martin and Martin Shore. But those guys, I just freaking love them.
Yeah.
Like their banter and the way they play this, especially Martin Shore, like his character is just like every episode, just like he's freaking great. And I love all the little zingers and one-liners. It's just and it's not it's serious, but those injections of comedy are so appropriate and fitting.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something just cozy feeling about it and like relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about murder, but it's still just like so I'm just drawn in and I just love it. I just love it. I don't know what more to say about it. It's just I think it's grade A quality stuff. Um that first season, I'm getting my seasons confused. Yeah, first season, right when his girlfriend. Oh, I can't say it. Anyway, I don't want to really spoilers, but sometimes the moments or the dynamics they have with Selena and like she has that art director love interest who is I forget her name, uh, popular British actress, but anyway,
Emily
Cara
Blunt.
Cara Devangeline or whatever.
Oh.
That whole thing, that dynamic, it was a little like okay, and they have their moment and okay, necessary, unnecessary, whatever.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly. You don't have to. I won't
Oh.
expand on it because people can watch it for themselves and
Yeah.
decide. I just felt like it was fine. It was just a little, it felt a little misplaced in the
Oh. They try to murder each other.
story. Yeah, it was like them trying to build on um, Selena's character's story or whatever. See, I don't even really know. I was more in it for the main plot,
Yeah. Sure.
and it's just good. And it's even I was reading about it before this, and I mean it's broken some records for like most streamed television series at that time when it was released. And it broke records for Hulu's like the most streamed TV show they've ever had. So
Hmm.
anyway, great. Go check it out if you haven't yet. White Lotus, I don't think we really touched on too much, but that's a really good show. We talked about season one a bit. It did. You did.
Hmm.
We talked about the concierge or
Yeah.
the manager. I mean,
So good.
it was all good
Love
stuff.
him.
Season two is good in its own right. They have uh Aubrey Plaza in there.
Mm-hmm.
She's fun. Plays a much more serious character than she is known for, I guess. I only really know her from Parks and Rec, but it's enjoyable. But season one, just prime. So yeah, I mean, all good stuff here. Obviously, they're up for a good category here with favorite TV series. But yeah, Only Murders for me. Just a good quality show. Steve Martin, Martin Shore. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, right.
That's class act stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, Jimmy, I think we're getting down to some of our most prestigious categories.
It gets
What do
crazy.
we got coming up?
Yeah, so basically, here's the deal, guys. We're going to move into the last two, which are Movie of the Year and Game of the Year. Now, here's how it goes. Like with this favorite TV series, Joe and I each kind of pick our own because we want to spread the love, and we might not necessarily agree. Or maybe we will. Who knows? I don't know. It's very exciting.
Suspense.
The suspense is killing all of us. But I can say without a doubt that Movie of the Year will be two different ones. Game of the Year, who knows? We might have the same Game of the Year, maybe not. We'll see. Anyway, Joe, let's start off because Movie of the Year is separate. What is your Movie of the Year? Because I wrote mine down, but you don't know what it is.
uh, so for me, I'm a little bit pigeonholed on this one because obviously recently I have a young son now. I don't have much time for the movies, and 1 year olds don't necessarily do well in movie theaters. So um, I think the most grand or epic mainstream movie that I've seen um, as of 2022 was Top Gun Maverick. I I'm a sucker for fighter jets. I go through I go through phases where like at work I like to change my desktop background on my dual monitors,
Mm.
big wide screen. I have them stacked together and I'm like, you know what? This month I'm gonna do fighter jets and I have like cool fighter jet wallpapers. I My uncle used to work for Wright Pat Air Force Base. He worked for the Air Force there, doing financial stuff for like weapon system and plane development, that sort of thing. And I remember fond memory I have. My dad and I got together with him when we were in Ohio 1 year, and we went to Wright Pat, their Air and Space Museum. It's huge, and they have pretty much every plane you can think of. I mean, you're talking about like the Nighthawk F-117. It's talking A-10 Warthog. They even have a
Man.
cockpit that you could get up in and check out. They have the guns sitting there
Mm-hmm.
out on display. They have one of the space shuttles on display. They had a B-2 bomber, a
Mm-hmm.
B-1 bomber. They had a F-22 Raptor display model.
Oh, that's hot.
Oh, which really cool. My uncle actually worked on the budget for developing that and the weapon systems.
Ooh.
So cool. Um, anyway, I get obsessed with that stuff. I think it's so cool. I think it's like just a feat of engineering for the human race. The aliens are laughing at us, but they're cool to me. All
Yeah.
right. And and this movie, they really hit it out of the park. We talked about it enough, I think, in previous categories, but they really made it feel authentic, realistic, and good pacing, high action, just downright fun, and a feast for the eyes,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
a term that I used to use fairly commonly in
Oh, yeah.
previous 299 episodes. So yeah,
That's true.
that's my pick, and I'm sticking to it.
That's a good pick. I would probably be
What do you
right there
got?
with you, but believe it or not, I've got something different, and it's in this envelope.
That envelope?
My Movie of the Year, baby. And it goes to Everything Everywhere All at Once. I saw this movie, Joe, before it got nominated, I believe, for the Oscars and took home like all the awards. And you know what? Not since 2003 have I felt, oh yeah, Totally deserved. Because that's back in the day, baby, when Return of the King was winning everything. And I was like, that's good. That's the way it ought to be.
Does anyone else listening know what this movie is?
So this movie...
I don't know what it is.
That's okay. I'll explain it to you. It is a story about... Do you know Michelle Yeoh, Joe? She's a pretty well-known actress. She's been in a bunch of stuff. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That's maybe one of the most famous things. Anyway, she basically gets sucked into an interdimensional kind of like situation where she is living kind of simultaneously multiple versions of her life and her family, and all of them are kind of fighting against one another in a way. And it's basically a story about like, and it's kind of highbrow in a way, but it's also really weird. It's a very strange movie. But it kind of comes down to me anyway, it felt like the villain of the piece, which was her daughter, I guess you call the antagonist, was kind of fighting for just like a world that means nothing. Everything's going to get destroyed. Nothing really matters. So existential kind of more so. But her husband, Kei Kwan, who you guys might remember as Short Round, way back in Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones, hadn't had a role like that or Goonies, like not a movie or TV show since, really. And he finally got to come back and do this. And he is like all about hope, optimism, and caring, and how that defeats the nothing of, you know, all this kind of existential dread. But it's this really crazy over-the-top movie that really uses its kind of multiversal plot line in a really fun and engaging way, because you never know exactly which kind of world she's going to be brought into or what's going to happen or what that world is and how different each of them are. And it does get weird and very quirky, but it's such a great movie. It kind of moved me, to be honest with you, and it was such a great performance by everybody. I was like, man, this is such a cool movie, and I was just happy to see something different and weird and its own thing. It was really, really wonderful. So there you go.
Okay.
That's my movie of the year. Yeah. So look, we got it. We had to cover this year.
If I knew what it was, I'd give my 2 cents.
That's fine. No, you don't have to. That's great. But you got like you got the fan favorite. I got like the critical darling, and I didn't mean to pick this to be like, oh, it's a critical darling, and that's why I picked it. I just happened to watch it and I liked it, and then it also won a bunch of awards, which is great because that doesn't always line up like with me, because I'm usually like with Joe, I'll be like, oh yeah, what are the big Marvel movies of the year, with DC movies, like the big actiony type things, like Mission Impossible when it comes out. It's probably not going to get nominated for Best Picture of the Year. Will Dead Reckoning probably be my favorite movie of the year already? I'll be like, yeah. Like, I can almost already tell you Dead Reckoning. Part 1, I'll be like, is incredible. Like, I already...
What is Dead Reckoning?
That's Mission Impossible 8, Part 1.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Okay. I did not know that.
That's okay. But, yeah, so it was just it was one of those things where kind of lined up again. And that's how Return of the King was. I loved Return of the King, despite what critical acclaim it got, and then I got a ton of it, and then I was like, yes, I love you, Lord of the Rings. So, anyway, I want to move on, though, Joe, to our final true award here tonight. It's very exciting.
Hit me with it.
Our final award here tonight is for Game of the Year. And the nominees
that's a good one.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, and the nominees are Elden Ring and A Plague Tale Requiem. What? There's only 2. How can there be?
And Call of Duty Modern...
And F1 2022.
Yes!
And the Critty goes to Elden Ring. Come on. I mean, we all
was there ever any doubt?
No, we've already gushed about it a lot earlier, but like Elden Ring, even for someone who's been kind of not as big a fan of the Souls games in the past, even I have to admit that's an incredible game. To think that all those ones and zeros have made this now, isn't that insane? It's just a crazy game.
Insane.
Yeah, the story isn't really there to my liking. It's more lore-based. You have to kind of figure it out on your own. But like the combat, the addictive nature of the game, the co-op feature, the bosses, the world, all that stuff come together to make just this insane game that I'm really happy I got to play and got to go through it with my buddies. And like even if I never touch it again, it'll still I like it has to be brought up because this year feels like it was the one thing that brought everyone for the most part in gaming together, and everybody's
Yeah.
talking about it. And people were talking about this in the real world like it was Pokemon Red and Blue when I was a kid. I would see people on shoots and I would hear them talking about weird stuff, and they're like, "Oh, that yeah, there's like these wolves that fell out of the sky." And like, "All right, yeah, so here's what you got to do with those guys." And like, I would hear that, I'm like, "Oh, they're talking about Elden Ring." Like you could
Yeah,
totally
that's
hear
cool.
it. And it was so great. I was like,
I saw
"Yes,
memes of husbands bringing their consoles to maternity wards when their wife was in labor and they're playing Elden Ring on the TV there. Maybe they weren't in labor, but they were,
you're
yeah.
doing great, sweetie." Just
Yeah, I mean literally.
yeah,
I saw
yeah,
that I don't know how many times, always a different husband. And I was like, what? I just yeah. I mean, it
yeah,
was fairly addicting. And I just think it is just so well done and beautiful.
yeah.
I love the variety and like the builds that you could do. I really get sucked into the customization aspect of it. Like, okay, I'm ultra powerful. I got this max rank fire sword that I can just, stand back and shoot flames out of. I'm a little bored of it. I want to switch it up. Okay, I'm going to go for a bleed build. So that means I want to switch to this gear. I got to level it up a little bit. Okay, I want to do dual wielding dual blades. Yeah, for sure. Or I want to two hand or double dual wield two great swords.
Mm,
So I need to go back and I need to reset all my statistics and strengths in different categories so I'm strong enough to wield two great swords because of the weight.
yeah.
And those little details are so fun, and like equipping charms to like further your attributes here and there. Just amazing. And some of the fauna, I was kind of like, okay, that's a little bit of a dud, like silly. But most of it was like just outrageously cool.
Yeah, like the
Like
sexy leg
the
crows.
say that one more time.
The sexy leg crows. Like
Oh yeah, those things. Um, like the elements too, like rot and stuff,
oh,
and
Bertle.
and not only that, but the story behind it. We haven't really mentioned that, but there's a story there, and if you're keen enough to follow that as you're playing through, it is pretty cool. You know, um,
I think they should do a
and
better
some
job with the. They should make it
they could
more overt.
sure. I mean, they could do a little better job with it. It is
It's really
tough
fun.
to follow at times. Um,
I have no. You could follow it. I have no idea. They're just like go kill, and it's like yes, sir.
I mean, to a certain degree. Um, I kind of got the gist of it because I kind of looked into it a little bit more, and that helps a lot.
Look
But
at this guy. Extra
um,
credit.
like, I still don't understand. Like, there's decision making in this because obviously it's kind of role play, it's RPG. But
Yeah.
we were in those dungeons, right? Underneath what was the main city? Air
Uh.
Tree City, the Elder.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I forget the main city. I remember there's these dungeons. You go down through these catacombs. And I remember coming to this room and there's like a hidden door that opens up to the hand of three fingers. I can't remember. It's been a while. But it's like, do you choose to be hugged or to walk away or something like that? I'm like, because it was like, what was that one element or maniacal chaos or whatever? Do you remember that?
Rykard.
Oh no, it was something to do like chaos or something like that. And I chose like, hell yeah, hug me.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it like imprinted these burn scars on me. And it was something to do with it was like the yellow lightning out of your eyes and
Oh
stuff.
yes.
And
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I forget what the element was, but it was like something with like being deranged or like kind of crazy or whatever. And it seemed powerful and kind of like rash. So I was like, yeah, I'm going for that. And I did it, but I still don't know what the impact of doing so is
Yeah.
because I think doing that kind of led me along a path that was kind of against what like the maiden handler wanted me to do, kind of a
Okay.
thing.
Sure.
Eh, Anyway, there's so much like deep dive stuff in that I really appreciate. And the fact that I come up against pretty much every boss, and they're so different, but so well designed.
Yeah.
It's eye candy. It just feels good. A lot of the times the mechanics were great, third person and everything. A lot of the moves are cool, all that. Sometimes I got a little annoyed with the third person and not realizing that I'm like tripping over stuff or like getting blocked by
Yeah. Like a
things,
rock.
especially in tight areas. But man, how could it not be? It's
Yeah.
just well deserved. They really hit one out of the park with that game. And I vow that I will go back and complete that game
Oh, lovely.
for sure. For
Cool.
sure.
Good deal.
Join me, won't you?
If you want me to, I could try.
Because I'll need the help.
I'll try. I'll be like, how do you play this game? Uh,
All
yeah.
right.
But that's our list this year, right? Like, I think we've done it. And again, like I said at the very beginning, if people want to leave theirs down below, the categories were best co-op game, best shooter game, most disappointing TV series, best action movie, favorite TV series, movie of the year, game of the year. Leave them down below if you want to leave one or two. Oh, leave all of them. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want. I'd love to hear.
Do you maybe copy paste this in the description below?
For people to see?
Yeah.
Well,
So
what
they
if
can
they?
go in and
But if they click on that at the beginning of the video, then they don't really have to. I guess they can see the
sorry, I
nominations.
missed that. It's okay, my bad.
Yeah, I guess I could put it in a way that way they wouldn't know. It's supposed to be mysterious, but I will put timestamps for people if they want to jump between.
Or like the categories or whatever.
I would
Anyway,
put categories.
Okay.
I'm going to put the categories.
I'm
Yes,
interested
yeah.
too. I'd love to see what people pick, so definitely comment below.
That's what I want to know. As we begin to wrap up here, though, I think there's time that we have to kill, just maybe a smidge. It's that part of the show that I like to call, that you like to call, we all like to call. Joe, what do we call, baby?
I haven't done that in so long, but
All
I still got it.
I only heard the last part of it, so I can only hear
Time Killers.
That's right, it's time for Time Killers. It's the games we've been playing, the movies and TV shows we've been watching. Joe, I can't believe we remember how to do this thing. Joe, what you been killing time with briefly while we wrap it up here?
Clarkson's Farm Season 2.
Yep.
Pretty close to wrapping that up.
Super good.
I
love how it ends. I can't wait for you to see the ending.
The other show I have been watching is, and I apologize, but I'm forgetting the name of it, Citadel.
I just started that. Do you like it?
I do. It's good. Once I got to the third episode, though, I realized, oh, okay, this is a little more cliche than I thought, because they went for like a 007 vibe for a second.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to spoil anything, but he has boots on, and all of a sudden skis just like out of the sole of the boot. And I'm like, okay.
They're collapsible. They're collapsible ski boots.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, it's pretty good. I've been enjoying it. Haley and I, I've been watching it in the evenings, and the only kicker is I think it was like a new episode every Thursday night or something like that. So
okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah, we made it to episode 3, and obviously now we got another one to watch. So, but it's worth a watch. It's pretty good. I've never really seen, what is her name? Jonas.
Yeah.
I forget her name. Is it Joe Jonas's wife or Nick Jonas's wife? One of them, Nick's wife. Anyway, Priya. I just feel rude because I can't remember. Anyway, it's good. It's worth a watch for those who haven't seen it yet. So I've been killing time with that, and Clarkson's Farm primarily. And then as far as games go, Formula One 2022, baby.
Yep.
My game of the year. Yeah.
Priyanka Chopra, Jonas?
There you go. Thank you.
I got
Thank
you.
you.
And my boy Stanley Tucci. Except he's not my boy. Darth Vader is. Sorry. I love Tucci. Tucci.
Yeah, he is really good.
He's
I like him in
super good.
this as
Everything
well.
he's in, he's good. I'm like,
I know. I know.
something about him.
Yeah. Uh, there's something else. Oh, so Formula One, been killing time playing that as far as games go. And I did not so recently, but a little while back, Diablo
Coming again.
4?
Diablo 4?
4?
Yeah, pretty good.
Never thought I'd get into a game like that, but boy, it got me. I was kind of hooked on it, and it was just the beta. And now they're doing a second trial run this weekend, and I'm all about it.
Yep.
So, those are my time killers.
Yes, I love the time killers. I had to do that while you were here.
What's on your list, Jimmy? What do you got?
It's quick. Orcs Must Die 3, loving it. Playing by myself. One day I'll find someone to play co-op with me. Still a great game. Tower
Trying
defense.
to guilt me into it.
One of these days I'll get them. Anyway, also I've been watching the final season. It's coming out right now at the time of this recording of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, a show that I have enjoyed for years. It's just super well acted. Lots of great writing. Cool period piece. Just, I don't know, great show. And then what else is? Oh yeah, I binge watched Chainsaw Man. I hate it and love it when you find a show that you are just flying through it, but then when it's done, you feel like you're like, what am I even doing? Like you can't find any other shows, like, especially anime, where you're like, I need to find another good anime. Like,
it was so zany, like Chainsaw Man. So I clicked on it and I watched. I think I made it through like 2.5 episodes or something like that, and I'm like, okay, I saw, I get it. He's yeah.
Yeah, it gets weird, but I really like it, and I was like, ooh, I'm very interested.
And is there something about like he's trying to get like laid all the time?
He's really he's 16 and he's like never, I don't know, he wants to have a girlfriend, and
yeah, okay.
So there's a bit of that.
I saw something about that.
Oh yeah, definitely has that aspect, but it's very much, I was trying to compare it to two things. It's kind of like the show anime Demon Slayer, which is really good. And something else, like, I don't know, it'd be Tokyo Ghoul or something like that, but it's a fun show. The only thing that bothers me, and a lot of anime has to do this, but where he's like himself is when he becomes Chainsaw Man, he's like cell shaded and CG, and I think it's that way. I don't know if it's so it's easier to animate the fights, which I do like the fights a lot, or if it's just easier to animate the chainsaw always going versus having to do it like by hand drawn, because like you never see the Chainsaw Man as like a 2D character. He's always got that kind of depth to him, and it's different than his surroundings. These are the only problems I have. These are my issues, but it's a great show. I really like it, and I see why people were talking about it a lot. So, yeah, that's pretty much all. I just wanted to do that because the little time killer is a little nostalgic. But, Joe, thank you so much, dude. 300 episodes. I was thinking about doing an episode where it was like people just ask us questions, and I was like, maybe we could do that in the future. But I was like, 300th episode, Critties, Joe. That's how we're doing it, and that's how it's been done.
Yeah, to kind of get into this wrapping up time frame, I want to know, anybody who listens to this, hopefully you made it to this point. I know it's been a long one, but leave some comments below on some ideas for future shows, because we're not kind of following. You're not really following any standard format for the podcast as you used to, right? So it'd be cool to get some creative ideas from listeners on future shows. Obviously, I don't have as much time to consistently dedicate week to week as I used to, but for those one-off opportunities, it'd be fun to have some cool ideas in the hopper to pick out of the hat, so to speak. So if you got an idea, toss it below.
If you have an idea specifically with Joe in mind, this would be the time, basically. Yeah, because I would love to. The idea moving forward potentially is to have other guests and stuff on here. Joe has been so good to me over the years, being on like almost every single week, and it's too much to ask, especially with the kid. So it's that's why I can appreciate that. That's why the show also for me too has been hard to do because it's just other work stuff, and my life changed a lot when I moved to California. But it's going and it's still happening from time to time, and you never know what's going to be on this channel because the only thing that everything has in common is that I'm on all of it for the most part, at least going forward. So which sounds very self-indulgent. It's just the truth though. So yeah, so if you have cool ideas for Joe, one of my ones that I was talking to Joe about before we even started the show today was that I loved was talking about our favorite fast food for a full episode. We just talked about our favorite fast food restaurants, and we just talked about it for a super long time. It was great. So if you have ideas like that, just even if it's not entertainment wise, if it's just stuff you want us to chat about for 2 hours, we could talk about anything for about 2 hours. You'd be surprised.
Anything. Ginger ale.
We could do a whole episode about ginger ale and 7-Up. It's like lemon lime. And it's not ginger ale, but like, does ginger beer get into there? Because I love ginger beer and it's non-alcoholic.
Moscow mules.
I'm not that. Exactly. Quietly, I'm just slowly, like, that's what I'm doing now. It's like, he's not doing the podcast anymore. He got into Moscow mules.
What did you just say?
Moscow. It's late.
Moscow.
I'm thinking of Mickey. I'm always thinking of Mick.
That's where it's milk, ginger beer, and you stir it with a rat tail.
Do they have? They would never put Mickey's name on an alcoholic drink, but if they had to, a Mickey Moscow Mule. Moscow.
I'll bet you it exists.
I wonder if it's official Disney. That's the question I have. Yeah, I would also love to do something where it's like people send in a bunch of things to ask you questions about, where it's like, all right, Joe, can you give me a guess at what this is? And I just say a phrase or something, and you have to parse it out, be like, oh yeah, and actually be like, that's a part of an F-22 Raptor. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, I should have known this.
I'm good at that sort of thing. I'm a very visual guy.
It's a very visual guy. He's very artistic as well, as he said earlier. But yes, I just appreciate you, buddy. It's been great. It's been so much fun. And to
you, sir.
Thank you. And that's not the end of the show by any stretch, as far as the show continuing to go on and on. But like I said, we used to do it once a week, and now we just kind of do it when we can and whenever guests can come on. So who knows? Maybe I'll do a regular show in the future again. But right now, this is the 300th episode. And thank you for everybody who's been listening and watching. If this is the first time you've ever heard it, thank you. I know there are some of you out there who have been listening to every single episode, and that is incredible to me. So thank you. I appreciate you. Love you so much. Thank you also immensely to the patrons. I appreciate you guys. Most of the ones have found me through the vlogging stuff. So this whole podcast thing is just kind of, it's like, oh, like what? Is this podcast? Yes, we do a lot of things around here. But yeah, I don't know. What's the word that they should say if they made it to the end of the show, though? Because I feel like that's a good one. What should they say?
Glitter weasel.
Glitter weasel. Yes, glitter weasel. 2 words or one?
Let's go one word.
One word.
Slur it together.
That's Joe's that's his name when he's out on the battlefield. That's his moniker.
It's my call sign.
Or call sign. Thank you. But yeah, again, thank the patrons. Thank you so much. I love you guys. It's so nice to have people who are interested in the work we do, work I do, all that stuff. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next time, Joe, just remember to adapt and
overcome.
That's right.